stands for something quite important. It sort of unites everyone in this country, doesn't it, the NHS? We all have this amazing and envied access to free healthcare, which a lot of countries around the world don't.
The NHS has been described as the closest the British have to a religion, and many here clearly believe what's being proposed is sacrilege. If you're going to change the NHS, you need to do it extraordinarily carefully. And the feeling here is that actually this is the beginning of the end.
People find change incredibly difficult, and sometimes they have concerns and they want to know those concerns have been heard and responded to. And a lot of that was about saying, well, you know, it's going to mean privatisation of the NHS, and it won't. But it wasn't about involving the private sector more. It was actually about getting the best possible services for patients.
Of course, the big driver for these changes is savings. With increased demand and an ageing population, soon the NHS is simply going to cost too much money. Do you know, it's horrifying how much money this organisation chews through, and ongoing, it's just not sustainable. So it's vital that we make, you know, the right changes to make sure that we do have an NHS around over the coming years. It's just crucial.
Near the top there.
Here?
Yeah, that's it.
And if I move this turn, is it hurting?
Yeah, it's
isn't it?
Andrew Lansley is confident that getting rid of primary care trusts will bring big savings for the NHS. And while the reforms are yet to be agreed, it's already happening. Back in Hackney, Dr. Deborah Colvin's local PCT has gone, merged with two others. For Deborah, it's causing chaos.
Things are coming apart. We don't know next month where we're going to get our IT support from, because half of it's gone. 50% of the PCT here have gone.
She took me to her now derelict old PCT building. Some of the team were moved from here, but many have been made redundant. Horrible, isn't it?
Yes.
There's a Marie-Celeste
yes.
feel about all of this.
Those teams don't exist anymore.
Right.
And all their memories and all their knowledge of the local area and what patients need and how things work and who's who.
All gone.
All gone.
It's estimated that 20,000 redundancies will occur as PCTs are dissolved at a cost of £1 billion in redundancy payments. I've been involved in any number of changes in large organisations, but this is easily the strangest one that I've ever seen. It's already started. People are being made redundant. Things are changing, but we don't actually know what the end game is. And there's another worry about these reforms. In order to run the commissioning process effectively, GPs are going to have to band together into bigger units. Does that mean we risk losing something special about our GPs? Tucked away in the Lincolnshire wolds, I meet Ajay Vora, a country doctor with a thriving practice. Ajay, I assume. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too.
Practice.
Thank you.
Would you like to I'm essentially a single-handed practitioner, but we're in a rural area covering approximately 100 square miles. I work with my wife, who's a nurse practitioner, so it's very much a couple-driven practice. We've been here 20 years, so we've hopefully got to know our patients very well. I'm excited for the fact that I might now, for the first time, have a say in how some of these funds are directly spent.
Tell me the patient we're going to see.
It's an elderly lady who's housebound now.
He took me on a home visit to meet one of his patients.
How long is it since you had the fall?
Well, when the snow was on the ground, and yes.
So, Joyce, when you hear all this stuff about the NHS not working well and all the reforms, what does it make you think?
Well, first of all, how fortunate we are to not have the problem, you know. And you can hardly believe that they can ring up to make an appointment and being told that, well, we can't see you for a week. When we go to our doctor, we don't get that. Somebody will always see you.
Well, it's been nice seeing you, Joyce.
Yes, I'm pleased to see you.
Whilst excited about the possibilities of the reforms, some independent GPs like Ajay also have concerns. They will be asked to join with other local practices to commission as a unit.
Hello there.
Where he now has sole control of his budget, Ajay will find himself part of a large group having to make joint decisions.
Hello, how are you? Now I'm told I've got to refer Pat to a certain hospital with a certain consultant because a contract's been put in place that makes it work better, maybe financially. Suddenly now she doesn't know whether I'm saying that because there's sort of a background motive or because it is the best for her. Now there's doubt put in a patient's mind.
I really think Ajay's right. There is a danger that the purity of that patient-GP relationship could be threatened by a financial motive being injected into the decision-making process. But what really concerned me was who was going to manage and coordinate these GP commissioning groups. I can understand why the power to commission is being centred around GPs. In fact, I think it makes a lot of sense, these commissioning groups. But, who will hold the commissioning groups responsible? This lack of accountability, which to me has never been in the NHS, isn't in the NHS, and I see nothing in these reforms that will change that.
There's got to be a set of people in each part of the country who are responsible for that. That's the clinical commissioning groups. And there is a line. The NHS Commissioning Board is responsible for allocating resources, and they are accountable to the public through the Secretary of State, who sets a mandate for the ambitions for the service as a whole.
These reforms affect only England. In Scotland, they're moving in the opposite direction. I headed 400 miles north to Glasgow, where they have health boards instead of PCTs and trusts. Here, hospitals and GPs work together much more closely, and there is a central reporting structure.
Hello, Margaret. How are you doing? Nice to meet you too.
Margaret McCartney's practice is in the west of the city. She is genuinely worried for her colleagues across the border.
I have a sense of impending doom. I really do. I think that what's happening in England is horrendous. I do not see any way that patients are going to get a better deal out of this. I think doctors are going to be moved to doing more management, more accountancy, when really their best interest should be served by, it should be the patient in front of them that they're interested in. It's placing doctors, I think, in an untenable situation where the patient in front of them is going to be thinking, actually, is my doctor deciding not to give me this because there's no evidence for it or because they're not willing to fund it?
On my journey around the country, I've met believers in these reforms and been convinced by them that GPs are probably the best people to handle commissioning. I've also met doubters, deeply worried about the role of private providers, and I share their concern. And those who simply aren't sure what the reforms will lead to. I think the stakes here are huge. The very existence of the NHS could depend on getting this right. Who's going to be managing that big picture? For me, that's the question that remains. And unless somebody really does grab this thing at the centre and actually have the courage to make the decisions that are, right but unpopular, I think it could be the end of the NHS. This is my view, but the Health Secretary disagrees, believing the reforms will ensure the NHS is safe in his hands.
With a service the size and significance of the National Health Service, you've got to take people with you. You've got 50 million patients for whom it's always going to be an important thing. So they've got to know that where they hear noise about, is the service going to be fragmented, is it going to be safe in the future, they need to know that it's going to be safe, and they need to know that the people who work in it are confident it's going to enable them to deliver a better service in the future.
I think everyone wants the health service to survive these reforms. If I've taken one thing from my journey, it's that the British love affair with the NHS is alive and strong. I just hope that these changes aren't the end of the affair. Next week on Panorama, remarkable tales of survival amid epic destruction. Piecing together new pictures from Japan's tsunami, we track down the amazing stories of those who survived when so many others died.